stewardship and tithing are not first of all about God's need to receive, but about our need to give. You need to hear that clearly. It's not like God is in heaven. I don't know what to do. I can't figure this out. It's not even first of all about this church's need to receive, though I laid out the needs. If God's not going to do his gospel work here, he can do it somewhere else. We're not the only church. We're not the only people preaching the gospel. God's work will continue. It's not ultimately God needs anything. It's not even ultimately the church. It's ultimately that our hearts have a need to give. And finally, excel in the grace of giving because of God's grace to you. Tithing is a symbolic and tangible expression that we realize everything belongs to him and not to us. It's all his. And when you give your first fruits and your first 10%, it's a concrete way of saying, God, this is not mine. This is not mine. You've provided me all the rest. You'll give, there's more if I need it. But it's yours. I only received it as a gift. It's not mine. Here, the least I can do is to give you 10%. You cannot outgive God. Christ became poor so that for our sakes we might become rich. Isn't it fitting that when Paul talks for 2 chapters about giving in 2 Corinthians 8 and 9, he finishes by saying, thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift, thinking of Christ. Because Paul can't talk about giving without talking about Christ. You may say, man, I can't believe pastor's going to do a stewardship sermon and tithing sermon, then we're going to go to the table. That has everything to do with the table. It has everything to do with the gift that God gave in his Son. All the grace that God has given to us. Every sermon about giving is first of all a sermon about what we've been given. It's about God's promise, God's providence, God's provision. The question is, do you have a mind to understand what God requires? Do you have eyes to see what he has done? And do you have hearts overflowing with praise for his grace? If your answer is yes, 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 then you come to the Bible and you see that this principle of a tenth is God's way of saying, here's how you can start. Here's what you can do. Recognizing all that I've given, all that I've done, all that I've promised. And you're saying, okay, God, what concrete step do I take as an expression of my faith, my discipleship, my trust, my gratitude? And we see from Abraham, and I think all through both Testaments, you give in proportion with what you've been given and start with a tenth.